This is funny. I look like a little Catholic schoolboy.
Wanna make that paper, wanna make that now. This is the affiliate marketing show. Wanna make that paper, wanna make that now.
What's up, OfferVault Nation? This is Josh coming to you with another episode of the Affiliate Marketing Show. Please be sure to like, subscribe, and follow to stay up to date on all the latest affiliate marketing news, tips, and trends. Today, we have myself from OfferVault, the industry's #1 aggregator of affiliate offers, networks, advertisers, and affiliate programs. We have Adam Young, the CEO and founder of Ringba, your #1 pay-per-call tracking platform. We also have the industry legend, Harrison Gevirtz. And as you can see, I have my bow tie on, which could only mean one thing. Today, we have Yancy Naughton, the founder of HasTraffic, a multi-channel traffic platform with a family of brands, including HasTraffic, CPC, Email Exchange, and HasSocial. They are the best place to trade calls, emails, SMS, domain, pop, search, redirect. And I see a note in here that says, thank you, exit, back button, push notifications, social, and more. It looks like that was added in without my knowledge, but we're doing it live. Nancy, what's up, man? How you doing?
It's
You
Yancy.
just call him Nancy?
Yeah, Nancy.
Nancy.
I had 13 years.
Nancy.
No, I didn't
That's
call
the
him
highlight.
Nancy.
Let's just end the podcast. That was awesome.
I didn't call him Nancy. I did not call him Nancy.
You did, and so did 13 years
No.
of substitute teachers looking for Yancy Naughton, followed by applause by the whole school. So.
Were you talking to us from, Yancy?
This is Prague, Czech Republic.
Well, I'm so happy that you are staying up late with us to join the show. You are a figure within this industry. We're very excited to have you on. It seems that your relationship with Adam goes back pretty far. I have a note here that says he was one of your first clients when you left old media for new media about 15 years ago. So can you guys tell us a little bit about when that started and how that all progressed to your friendship today?
Well, I don't know what Adam's version of the story is, so maybe I should let him tell it first.
Well, I was living in a castle and I found elephanttraffic.com and I just emailed them and was like, yo, what's up? Can I spend some money on some traffic? I might have even said, yo, what's up 15 years ago. And then this guy named Yancy called me and he was real excited about selling me some traffic. So I bought it. And we ran a lot of campaigns. They were co-reg and sweeps back in the day, and it was a lot of fun. And I would say this, I was an affiliate at the time, and Yancy, to this day, is the best account manager at any company in the affiliate space I have ever worked with. Hands down, like, he put up with all my bullshit. He never argued with me, and he just helped me make a lot of money. And I know he does that with a lot of people now at HasTraffic. And I just have to say from personal experience, he's one of my favorite people in the industry to do business with, simply because he actually cares about his customers, even when they're hooligans like me. I do miss the castle. All right, so what's your version, Yancy?
Well, I had come from old media, like I owned golf magazines back in Scottsdale, real estate magazines. And it wasn't dying. It's still not dead. You know, like these old media things, they just, I could tell that it was time to update or get out of it. So I sold the magazine. And I took an ill-advised job. Just by basically saying no to these people for so many years, and they finally just offered so much money. And then, so I took the job, I think November of 2007, and it had this great, salary and great severance. And I said, okay, I'll start April 1st. Well, between the whole industry that was based around basically collapsed in those 3 months. So they paid me as pretty much as long as they could. And then they finally took the severance instead of the paycheck. So I took 8 bags, 2 kids, 1 wife, and I tried a new continent. Moved out to Prague, where my wife was from, and I basically got my brains knocked out Nobody was hiring anything back then, and finally came across Elephant Traffic, which Adam had introduced, and I saw like, I don't know, millions of dollars a month worth of traffic, and they were selling like $20,000 of it. And I remember walking out of the interview and just saying, this is it. I'm sure they're going to call back. And I called my wife or whatever and said, yeah, I'm going to make them hundreds of thousands of dollars within months. And well, long story short, I started, and a couple weeks later, Adam had I had some successful campaigns with the kind of old media type clients like University of Phoenix and these kind of things, and I hadn't really gotten a taste of what a real affiliate behaved, like youngmg.com, just a black page with skull and crossbones. And where's my KYC? Well, we got the X.
Affiliates, do not do this. Do not behave this way.
So I was just like, okay, and I had been thinking about these traffic sources all along, and I was in these long sales cycles with major companies like so I don't know how much detail you want to go in, but basically music companies. I was there were domains that generated a lot of interest in music. I'll leave it at that. And I was my strategy for that was to basically to sell it to traveling acts like Rod Stewart or whatever, and let's say YouTube would be playing with his video on it instead of whatever Google had chosen for.
Instead of a free trial for a music player subscription.
Yeah. So anyway, so I get this sign up, Young MG and all this, and I said, okay, you know what? I've always taken the approach, you treat everybody the same. You know, you don't prejudge anything. I'm looking at this. I remember looking at the black page with just skull and crossbones, thinking like, okay,
Shut up, Yancy. Stop telling these people about these things. It's embarrassing.
Am I wasting my time with this person? Because I'm like calling like big Madison Avenue stuff, and that was my concept. And he didn't have a big sales cycle. I said, I don't know, start with $10,000. And about 10 minutes later, we had $10,000. And I'm like, okay, well, where did this come from? And so on and so forth. And about, I don't know, I gave him like, I think I remember giving him like 20 ideas for campaigns. And the one was, let's say, inspired by that musical channel. And well, anyway, I think he popped up twice overnight when I went to bed, and I came, and the people were like, oh, who was this guy who started last night and with $10,000, which they were used to, taking 2 weeks to sell $10,000 worth of inventory. And all of a sudden, Adam spent 30 grand overnight, and they're like, is he for real? Is this credit card for real? And yeah, it was for real, for Christ's sakes. And I could tell you, Rod Stewart didn't have a chance bidding against Adam.
Well, Yancy, if you must know, the website matched the color of the credit card, so
yeah, there you go. So anyway, but yeah, we've been staying in contact. I remember, so I left Elephant Traffic, basically talked Robert Grin into the concept of Zero Park. Zero Park was called Zero Park because it was a Polish domain parking company, and I'm like, I had worked with Robert Grin at Elephant Traffic, who was the founder of wasn't really the founder of Codewise, but just the founder of Ringba, and not Ringba.
No.
Not Ringba, Volume and Zero Park. So it was called Zero Park because it was supposed to be a parking company for Polish domains. And I said, you know what? We had proof of concept back at Elephant Traffic, and it wasn't domains, it was traffic. So let's do that. So I more or less brought Elephant Traffic, Zero Park, and of course HasTraffic to market the same way. It was the same business plan in my mind, except I didn't really get control of it till the day I started HasTraffic.
So I'm curious, I knew what all this traffic looked like years ago. I don't buy any media today, obviously. But I'm curious, all the traffic types that Josh listed still exist, of course, but what are the predominant channels that people are really having success with today? What are the traffic types on HasTraffic's platform where you're seeing, the most conversion volume and the most dollar volume?
Yeah, it's changing right now. It's changing dramatically. There's social media is picking up. This is something I invested in probably 5 years too early, like a click per call, cost per click for social media, where influencers could sell their traffic on cost per click. And my timing was a little bit off on it, but it's really picking up right now. That's a very strong channel, as is people with running Facebook ads, selling that kind of traffic. Domains are still very strong. Email, SMS, push notification is still very strong. SMS is, the good SMS, which is fully opt-in, not just fully opted in, but they're basically the company that you signed up for sending the information to you. So the second, third, fourth party stuff is more or less not working anymore. So that used to be it used to be a much broader channel. Now it's still a very effective channel, but you have to basically play some small ball. It's not like, $100,000 a day targets anymore. It's a bunch of smaller, more targeted campaigns that are more basically related to the topic that they originally signed up for. So the domain that they signed up on, those emails can still get in the SMS if that company is the company that actually got the permission is sending the messages and the permissions, and the people are expecting the messages and the permissions. That's still very strong. But yeah,
is that still CPC based, or for SMS are your advertisers paying for the amount of SMSs that gets sent with the creative, because there's technically a cost behind sending a text?
Yeah, no, publishers can lose money all the time. It's not a guarantee. Basically, the reason when I got to the space, like I told you the story about when I met Adam, but when I got to space, I saw all this money flowing around the room. People didn't really know who they were sending it to, who they were getting it from. And it was all very much in CPA and CPL at the time. And it had just come, 10 years earlier, it was very strong in CPM, where if someone who could email people, they kind of made their own rules, right? They'd say, well, I just want to make this CPM. I don't give a shit whether it gets in box or anybody opens it or whatever it is. And then the advertisers who are trying to make sales or leads or whatever were like, hey, we don't want to do this anymore. Let's just go with our metric. And as in, send me your traffic now, I'll tell you what it's worth later. And of course, that worked better for the advertisers, but publishers, basically, when I got to the space, and more or less when I got to the point where I could make the company I really wanted to make at Elephant Traffic or at Zero Park, I said, what we're really going to do is use CPC not as the way Google or Facebook says CPC should be, which is I'll decide how much it costs and you're going to pay whatever the hell I want. I don't care what happens to you. Kind of the way emailers were back in the day. Like, I don't care if you make money on this or not. This is my CPM. So basically, the big traffic, Google, Facebook, Bing, whatever, are basically using CPC as a kind of a fuck you metric. To like, you just pay what I say you're going to pay, and you might get the traffic or you might not. Where the way I basically present the CPC is, this is the meeting point between these two metrics where the publisher can try new things, because publishers would basically stick with what they already knew and not really try so much. So I really felt like we would bring liquidity to the market. And I remember my first plan here. I'm like, within 2 or 3 years, if I do this right, CPA networks will be done. Everyone will move to CPC. Everyone will be cloning me, which of course didn't happen. And it's been 12 years or whatever since we started, and everybody's still happy with the send me your traffic. I'll tell you what it's worth after I get it metrics. And essentially it's into a black box. So what we do is the CPC is a minimum CPC in an auction. So the publisher knows they're going to get at least 23 cents or 24 cents. So that scenario where they don't know how much it's going to cost to generate that click, they're taking some risk, and the advertiser's taking some risk. And it even works that way with the calls as well.
I'm curious, and I don't know if you'll share this metric. You can just tell me no, I guess. But how many clicks are you handling on a day, a week, a month?
I don't know, but if you had put this on the sheet, I could have pulled a report, but it doesn't really matter because
like, are we talking?
As Adam said in a previous episode, I'll take what you can give me, baby.
Yeah, I mean, like, the reason it doesn't matter is there's like a billion clicks for pops and push, and they don't matter, right?
So
what
many
matters is
different channels,
we have like $3 clicks, $7 calls, all these kind of things, which are very small volume and huge revenue. So
Sure.
I don't really, it's not that I'm trying to avoid the question, but there's billions of clicks on HasTraffic, but the ones that matter are in the hundreds of thousands of a day, I would imagine.
Outside of the US, what geos would you say you have pretty high demand?
We've
from
always been,
advertisers in?
I called it a non-denominational platform. So multi-channel, multi-geo, basically if it was legal, you were allowed to trade it and if you could redirect it. But now we serve ads and send calls and all sorts of other things. So we're strong in US, we're strong in Canada, Australia, New Zealand, Northern Europe, somewhat, in Asia, some countries, it goes up and down. So supply increases with demand. Like Brazil was huge like 2 months ago, and basically I think the advertisers' money got seized by banks or whatever. These kind of things happen all the time. So I tried to make a machine that you can apply to any traffic. So you'll see people working a lot harder when it doesn't work in the US. They'll work harder in Australia or New Zealand or Spain or Italy, or they'll work on gambling traffic. They'll work on adult dating or whatever it is. It changes all the time.
So if I'm a publisher, well, let me rephrase that because you view it differently. If I'm an affiliate and I want to buy traffic from HasTraffic, what's that experience like? If I'm Adam Young from 15 years ago and I discover HasTraffic and I have no idea what you're doing or like what campaigns to run and whatever, what's that experience like working with your company? Because I know it's very different than a lot of the other traffic platforms.
Well, we do work essentially. I think I made the company that I wanted to work for, because the experience that you and I had as kind of anonymous as it was a really healthy relationship, and it has been ever since. And it was because it was very personal attention that was given. And even though the platform looks like a self-serve platform, it's all the money's made in the managed campaign. So to answer your question, people sign up on there, and if they were to self-serve, they would kind of get their ass kicked, because they would bid on the wrong campaigns, they'd send them to the wrong pages, and so on and so forth. So we have a lot of publisher managers and advertiser managers who know what they're doing, and they've been doing it for a long time for me. And when the experience that you and I had was, hey, what kind of offers do you have? And then I said, well, why don't you build this page around that and that page around that? And obviously we hit a vein. I think I remember giving you like 20 pages, and they all went away as soon as one of them hit. Like you just focused on what hit. So, and that's kind of like what we do. So we put a lot of real intelligence, real experience. Essentially, we have operational people and salespeople that are working together to make sure that not just that you spend your money, but you want to deposit it again, because the margin that we work from is so different to the model. Even at Elephant Traffic, I think their margin was 40%. So they kept 40% of the money.
40%. Yancy, go get my money back.
Adam, your
No, you
ROI
don't
could
know
have been.
you don't know the hell. You don't know that's 40% was just on the minimum bid price. They took like 80% of the upticks in the bids, and
Oh my God.
You were
Oh my
working
God,
for him,
they-
Adam.
and
I
I
should
can
have a castle.
yeah. Well, we wanted a castle too, Adam.
Oh, this is bullshit. So,
Adam's, I
look,
see like a
think
vein bulging of anger for this.
Yeah, for those of you that can't see the video, Adam's losing his shit right now. But Adam, go ahead. What was your question?
Hey, what's a couple $1 million between friends, right? Like, no
Exactly.
big deal.
If you can't
All right,
make
so-
money on your friends, who are you going to make money on?
So look, I think that experience was really cool for me for a couple of reasons. One is that, Yancy was newer in the business and I was a young affiliate, and we're both still around. And we both run organizations today that have a really big presence at trade shows. And the thing about Yancy that I really respect as well is that I always see him at the trade shows every single year. He never misses a beat. And so I think it just goes to illustrate what a relationship in this industry can be worth. And even though, for a long time, we didn't have any campaigns or business together, like having those relationships is valuable. And I remember when we started exhibiting at trade shows, I actually called Yancy up and invited him over to my place and sat him down and made him tell me all about advertising and booths and how you do the trade shows and the sponsorships, because he had been doing it successfully for a long time and I didn't know. And, the reality is we ended up not doing a bunch of sponsorships from that conversation. It probably saved me a lot of money learning. And so the same thing goes when you're buying traffic. It's really great to have a company like HasTraffic and to be able to build a relationship with them, because they can help you be successful. And that relationship, our relationship, Yancy, I made a lot of money when we were running those campaigns together, and it wouldn't have happened if we didn't establish a relationship. And so I think affiliates miss the boat on this a lot. And you could even suck at relationships like I did with my Jolly Roger website and my bad attitude and still be able to create them. And so I don't really think there are any excuses for affiliates. They really just need to reach out to the people at companies and build long-term relationships, and they'll find success, right? Like you need the human element. You can't just show up and expect the computer to make you money.
So Adam, you mentioned relationships. Yancy, I'm going to pass this right back to you, but to comment on Adam's point about relationships, how do you go about choosing your partners that you work with at HasTraffic, whether it be affiliates, agencies, networks, the brands? What's your approach when you're really trying to figure out who you want to do business with?
So I have a strong loyalty streak. I like to do business with people I know. I know their strengths, their weaknesses, their perfections, their imperfections. That has always been a preference of mine. But we were talking about before how these channels change, these campaign changes, the geos change, who's fighting over what changes all the time. So you have to do what Adam was just talking about, which is come to a new show and actually be there and meet new people and really do it in person. So the topic that I think is relevant there, I used to give a lot more speeches than I do at these conferences, because I just kind of but one of them was all like about picking your partners well. We were talking about Google and the way they sell traffic, but Google as a company, basically they have obviously the greatest advertising network that's ever been created. Second place is like the phone book or whatever, but second place is Yahoo and third place is the phone book. but they don't give a crap about you. You don't exist in their business plan. Doesn't matter. Great story. There was a company called what was it called? It's a domain parking company, and it was Rook Media, and they had bought like the biggest parking company in the world, which was domain sponsor, and they had probably done $10 billion worth of advertising with Google as their only partner. And one day they got a letter from Google and said, we're shutting it off in 28 days. That's not, I didn't make that story up, and that's not even that rare of a story. It's rare that you do $10 billion or $20 billion when you get the letter, but it's not rare at all. I don't know if you remember Silver. Anyway, just about choosing your partners well. I'm not saying don't do business with Google. It's a great advertising network, but they don't care about you. You're not existing in their business plan.
If Google's your partner, you might want to have a backup plan, I think is a nicer way.
You might want to have a backup plan. Exactly. So
even though those Yahoo CPCs aren't quite as good, you should probably still have a Yahoo agreement.
Well, even like, so I don't think you go to Traffic and Conversion, even though it was in San Diego, but it's funny because that is called traffic. This, the first word is traffic, and we have this big booth right in front of the door. It has traffic. You would think there'd be a line of people waiting for traffic, but when you start talking to these people, they're all like, "Oh, I don't know if you guys are too young for this, but in the original Blues Brothers movie, did anyone see that?"
Yeah, we're not that young.
So they go in, they're stealing a gig from a country band, and they go to this bar and they say, "What kind of music do you play here?" And the bartender says, "We play both kinds, country and Western." And that's how I felt about the traffic and conversion people. They're like, we already have both kinds of traffic, Facebook and Google. And then I'm like, well, what about other things? And they'll be like, "Oh, what do you mean, TikTok or Yahoo?" And it kind of blew their mind that there's more traffic out there than these very big American monopolies that don't give a shit about you. And as soon as I used to, in the speeches, I'd say, "All right, room full of entrepreneurs. Does anyone like the sound of this business? You have one partner. You have the best location in your town. It's a coffee shop, and you split the money, and you make $5 million each. Does anyone like the sound of that business?" And everyone likes the sounds of that business. I said, "Okay, just one little twist. You know for a fact that your partner wants to murder you, and has done it many other times with every other partner that they've had. And as soon as they figure out how to murder you and keep the money, they're going to do that. You still like that business." And that's what I mean by choosing your partners well, because sure, if you can get Google traffic, get it. But if you only have them as a supply or demand partner, and Rook Media was a great example. Domain Sponsor was a great example. That was the only demand partner. When I started HasTraffic, I had an opportunity to buy a Google feed. So they would have been my demand partner. And I looked at the contract, and it basically said I could only send the traffic to them. And it was like 150 pages or whatever. And then randomly, they would just say they weren't going to buy that anymore, and I would have to find an advertiser then. So that's a great example of how a bad partner is, right? A bad partner basically only cares about themselves, and they don't see it as an equal relationship, and they don't care about the user experience from your perspective. So,
well, and Google's technology is specifically designed to optimize for them, not anybody else, just their margin. And sure, they care about the consumer, right? And some of their metrics, like click-through rate and things, are gussied up to make it look like they're being nice to everybody. But the reality is Google optimizes for Google. And my experience when I was, yeah, exactly. And my experience when I was an affiliate was everyone is rushing to Facebook, everyone is rushing to Google, everyone is going to the big traffic sources, and they're fighting in this red ocean bloodbath where they have no control, they can lose their account, they can't build a sustainable business. And so I was always on the lookout for things like Elephant Traffic or HasTraffic. I'm like, where are the mid-market traffic providers that are selling different types of channel traffic that most people aren't aware of or are harder to monetize or are more complicated to deal with, but where if I can spend a 50 grand a month, I'm a player, right? Like 50 grand a month with Google is nothing. It's literally nothing, $0 to them. But if it's a mid-tier or a small tier ad network, 50 grand is on their top list somewhere. And if I can get to $1 million a month, I own their business
at that point.
Yeah, exactly. Like you can get to be with a mid-tier partner, you can get to be the biggest buyer from them if you're really good. And then
years ago, Adam, we had a campaign. We were spending with one traffic source. I'm just gonna say it was the dinner where their credit card declined, so you know which one it is. And we were spending like $30K a day, and we were like their top advertiser,
more.
and like
way more.
Yeah, okay. I was thinking when it was on the come down, but even when we were only spending $30K, they were at the top. We were at like the 70 to 80. They worked for us. We had like the whole account management team was our account manager. We didn't have one account manager. We had every account manager.
All of them. Yeah,
like literally. So, but Google, we spend $100K a day. They'd be like, "Yeah, you can email support@google.com, and we will reply to you never."
Or maybe.
Yeah, one of my interns in the Philippines will email you 6 weeks from now, and
maybe
Harrison.
Maybe we'll just send you a letter closing your account and keeping your money. One or the other.
Well, Yancy, I don't know if you know, I think you do, but Harrison and I also own a travel agency, and it's a terrible business, but we have so much corporate travel, it just makes sense. And so we, at one point, were media buying for the travel agency, and we were buying hotel booking, and we were doing it through Google, and we were booking hotels we had contracts with. Like, we're a licensed travel agency. We have the IATA, we have the ARC, we go through all the process, like the most annoying licensing process on earth. We had to acquire the travel agency to get the license. So like the real deal travel agency. And I submit all our licensing documents to Google. I give them the paperwork, the certified stuff, a lawyer letter, the letter from ARC, the letter from IATA, everything. We're like, hi, we've been in business for 45 years. Literally, 45 years. Travel agency is older than Harrison and I. Okay? Like, our oldest employee at one point was like 90. Okay? And so Google suspends our AdWords account for no reason, and then sends us an email that says, hey, you can't buy these keywords unless you're an IATA licensed travel agency. And we're like, we literally sent you all of the licensing documents.
Like more than once you sent it. You did like an email and upload. Like it was like the most stupid shit we've ever seen.
And then the Google rep calls me and it's like, hey, dude, why'd you turn off those advertising campaigns? Like you were scaling, you're one of my top guys. How do I help you? I'm like, dude, you suspended my shit. He goes, what are you talking about? You're a travel agency. I helped you pick the ad copy. It took 5 months to get that account unsuspended. And by that time, we literally had to fire all the travel agents. We had to fire all the people who were running the campaign. And then the Google rep calls me back all excited. He's like, dude, I got you unsuspended. Let's go. Let's get you back up. And I was like, what are you talking about? All those people lost their jobs. And he was like, oh shit. Well, can we hire him back? Can we all call him back? And I'm just like, I can't do this again. I can't call these people and tell them, hey, you have your job, but if Google decides to throw a tantrum, you lose your job again. And so we decided to stop, and we only do corporate travel now.
Yeah, well, that is a story I did not know, but it's one I've heard before.
Yeah.
We're not
So
the first or the last that gotten fucked by overzealous Google.
Well, do you remember Silver Stoltzen? Do you remember him? Did you know him?
I do. I did.
Yeah.
It was a really sad story. So maybe he had cancer, and him and his wife and his daughter, they lived in San Francisco, and he played by all the rules. So he was a affiliate marketer, but he literally had one account for 250 pages. And about 6 months before he actually died, they shut down all of the account. Nobody picked up a phone. He paid all his bills with basically his savings, and then left nothing for his kid.
Wow.
And I gave a speech at Affiliate Summit. I'm going to say 18. This is probably when he was dying. He was still alive. He had asked me if I could. He'd asked me if I could find somebody at Google that he could actually talk to. So I was already giving this choose your partner well speech already. Like I was already giving that speech. So he's like, I'm like, well, I could, I'm going to be speaking in front of a couple hundred people. So do you want to give me a video? And I still have the video. And he basically told the story firsthand. And I think there were some people from Google in there. And I basically gave the speech anyway. I said, guys, this is a last minute addition to this speech. And it was a real story by the real person. And he died maybe 2 or 3 months afterwards. But all he was asking was for somebody to talk to at Google after doing that. And I just, he basically paid all his employees, paid all his debts. And they kept a lot of his ad money. And I don't know if his wife ever got it back, but
That's
it
terrible.
was like $250,000 worth of ad revenue at the time that he was giving me this video to put in. And somebody, I assume it was from Google, came up and kind of, I don't know if he came up or he raised his hand, and it was basically chiding me for telling this story. I'm like, I didn't make this story up. This is really how these people do business, and they don't really. There's no fair process.
No, and it's all done by computers. I mean, ours is a perfect example. I mean, literally offering exactly the service that they want in a regulated industry where we were regulated and licensed, and we had to fire a bunch of people, and it really sucked to do that. Like we make light of some of these things, but this was not a fun process. And like, you tell your team the truth and you work your ass off to try and solve it, but you have no control over it. And even though it was late in my marketing career, it was a tough lesson to learn. And I think that, I think there's something to be said for working with mid-tier companies or companies that aren't the Goliath, because you can build a relationship. You can go meet the CEO, right? And at least have a conversation and then become partners and build a business together. And of course, you're going to have issues. If someone does something they're not supposed to, they deserve it. But the reality is that sometimes it's just better to be able to meet people in person and to build something that's sustainable, and you can pick up the phone and call somebody. And I think, as marketers, I think I've made more money being an affiliate off of not Google, Facebook, than YouTube than I have on those platforms. Because on the mid-tier stuff, it's harder, sure, but when you get it, it can be much higher margin and much more sustainable. And you have these feedback loops that don't exist
outside of the
big
margin
players.
or outside of the scale opportunity when you're working with the Facebooks and the Googles of the world. It's like I'm thinking back of some big Facebook campaigns I ran quite a while ago. You're literally like on your toes at all times, like, fuck, when am I getting banned? Even if you're running completely like above board.
And that hasn't changed. That hasn't changed. It's still
it's
like
worse
that.
now. It's worse now. I think. I mean, it's like I was talking to someone a few months ago, and I was like, they were like, yeah, so like,
people were
doing
gaming
Facebook
it.
ads. And I go, it's not as fun as it used to be. You should buy traffic somewhere else. I literally told someone that, and they didn't really get it. And like 2 weeks later, they were like, yeah, I was promoting my like chiropractic business. I got banned. I'm like, yeah, I told you. Like, That's my
So we talk a lot about Google, Facebook, YouTube. Yancy, what do you think about like the consolidation of traffic channels and traffic providers? Do you feel like it's kind of being monopolized a lot by these bigger names, or do you think there's still room for other people to thrive in this part of the industry?
Well, yeah, sure. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're basically always looking for novel ways of generating traffic or new novel places of generating traffic. So what HasTraffic is a machine that I can move. Like we've essentially gone out of business, hundreds of times in the past 12 years because things stopped, an affiliate or even like these affiliate networks. Think of all those mobile networks, the Mundos of the world and the Mentomi and all this. They all disappear because they basically make this mistake that Adam did. Adam was obviously not dependent on the revenue of the travel company, but it's the same mistake, right? They got something that's worked. Let's just do this huge one thing and focus on this and just be so great at this. So regardless of what you think happened on 9/11 or what the conspiracy theories aside, you had towers and you had a Pentagon, right? Pentagon was very broad, biggest building in America for I don't know, 70 years or something. But it wasn't going to fall, right? It wasn't fall because it was wide and there was many different locations that it existed on. A tower the towers fall from gravity because they're also incredibly visible and they're big targets, right? So the stability of the Pentagon is much better than the stability of the skyscraper. But we've always tried to build both, right? So we have this small ball, the home run and the bunts and the stolen bases and all this stuff. So I think it comes in cycles. I think if you really focus on just building one skyscraper, it's going to fall. And we've moved, email stopped one day in 2017 in the industry. I was still giving speeches about how email is never going to die when that happened, right? But these guys found new ways to market, and basically the consolidation of these big monopolies doesn't really affect you if you think outside the box. If you think of push notification. Well, email costs money to do and IPs and everything else that you needed. Push notification, once you had the permission, if you didn't blow it up like they do now, you could keep that customer forever and message them basically for free forever. And that was an innovation, and that basically was something new that we could trade on the platform, another channel of traffic. So that one is not consolidated. That one has a couple big companies. There's Pushnomi and Notify and like lots of other kind of big one, AdMaven, whatever, but it's not such a patented technology that it's being consolidated. So I think it's dependent on whether Google wants to block it from Chrome or not, but that hasn't happened yet. So.
Yeah, you mentioned it's cyclical, so I wanted to touch on that. What are some of the main reasons that you see like these ups and downs related to traffic channels in your experience?
Well, I mean, deliverability would be the most dramatic one. So basically, once Google stopped allowing third-party emails to get into Gmail, and then everybody else followed. That's what happened in 2017. So that was a perfect example of just basically the deliverability being taken away. So it was only left to people who had permission from the domain that they were sending from. So the sign up came from Single Parents Alliance of America, and they were sending it from Singapore. That one day, all of a sudden, it was just the first party emails that worked. So SMS is experiencing that right now, where all these permissions are granted by users on a regular basis. They're not reading the terms and conditions. They're saying yes. They're giving complete permission for communication, but the mobile phone companies are basically preventing the message from getting to the user. So
Yancy, I had a question for you about SMS.
Yeah.
I'm kind of circling back to something we discussed earlier, but if you have SMS advertisers purchasing clicks from your pubs, who controls the creative that goes
Yeah, so that's
it goes
something
in
we
the
do.
text, or does it go to like a page with different links? Like
No, they have to approve, the advertiser has to approve the text. We generally.
So I'm an
generally
advertiser,
work-
I submit my creative, they text it.
Yeah, but the fact of the matter is,
wow.
like I was talking about deliverability, complicated creatives are not getting to the phones.
That's why I was thinking that.
That's literally a windfall for you guys, right? Because Ringba you're not sending a creative, right? It's a telephone number. There's not that complicated, like as opposed to web, where there is a domain which an algorithm can test. Same thing with social as well. Like Facebook doesn't really know what is being talked to, what the conversation. They're not listening to the recordings in Ringba, and neither are the mobile phone companies. So, but they do have algorithms that pick up, landing pages that they don't like.
Sure. I mean, it is a little self-serving, of course, being the CEO of Ringba, but consumer-initiated inbound calls, I think, are going to be a huge growth segment. I mean, it's with all the FCC restrictions and the other restrictions on SMS and all the outbound and how much of a pain in the ass it is. It's just the next evolution. Also, when a consumer picks up the phone to make a call, they clearly want that because they're taking an action to connect. And so I really think that we're going to see an evolution of a lot of these outbound channels and people running a lot of these outbound channels learning to just simply generate the inbound, because everyone wins on an inbound. The consumer's happier. The person that's answering is more of an order taker than a salesperson. You're not burning out your salespeople. Like everybody wins in that value exchange, and there's solid margins in it for everybody. It's just it's a much more sustainable business model than something like
Adam,
mass.
Do you remember
SMS.
on the early days of Ringba, people would say, "Why calls? Nobody picks up the phone anymore." And we would explain to them to simply put, an inbound call is just a warm, engaged lead. It's a customer that has intent. It's a better lead. It's a hot lead. And now people are finally getting that. But 5 years ago, we get the eye roll, like, calls, come on.
Well, sure. That's how I felt about SMS before email took a dump, right? Like SMS was something that was done before CAN spam laws, and it just seemed like a toxic thing, and you just avoided it. Where it came back very strong, and the compliance was very easy, right? Like everyone was afraid of GDPR, everyone was afraid of all these things. They forgot that people shut off their brains a long time ago, and they signed. With a click, they signed 125-page Google update terms and conditions, or Apple, or whatever it is. And so people are so used to giving permission, and they're so desensitized to their own privacy. And they're like, "Oh, I already gave that away, so whatever. I want to get to the next page, so I'll just give permission." So the permission wasn't the problem. What really is the problem is the technology of the mobile phone companies, or the ESPs, or whatever it was. Same thing with Facebook. Facebook really did not do well when the technology caught up with the cloakers and what have you. But I think the calls have really found a rejuvenation, at least in our space, the ability to generate a call where it's not just something easy for. Facebook likes calls, really, and they don't have a big incentive to use the AI that's out there to basically listen to phone calls to see if they like what's going on those phone calls, where they can do that very easily with an algorithm on a web page.
Yancy with a Y. Thank you so much for coming on the Affiliate Marketing Show today. We are a little tight on time, but before we go, I just want to hand it back to you. Anything you want our listeners to know about you and HasTraffic, or anything you guys got coming up?
No, we're almost at every show. Until Adam started buying booths, we were always the biggest booth in front of the door. and we're not hard to find. Basically, to get to your booth, you had to go by mine, and mine used to be the highest.
Not anymore, motherfucker.
Then you guys went with the skyscraper, and I'm just going with the Pentagon. So
Say nothing, Adam. Say nothing. Say nothing.
Oh no. I was just gonna say, Yancy, you ain't seen nothing yet, buddy. Just get ready.
I'm ready.
If you'd like to buy that booth, let me know.
In all fairness, I did mentor Adam did mention it earlier, but I did not just tell him what shows not to do and what sponsorships not to bother with, but like to go big or go home. What's the sense in coming to a show and being Phonexa at the end of the booth and after they've walked by Ringba, right? And I was like, yes, it's worth the money, but all the sponsorships aren't. Like, if you can get it, I think I remember saying, if you can get the lanyards, that's golden, right? So I'm doing.
Stay away from my fucking lanyards.
You can have the lanyards. I've been giving out water because you only pick up one lanyard per show. But how many times you drink water? So by noon on the first day, my cups.
Well, tell me this: how many impressions do we get per? How many times do you look at someone's badge and see their lanyard? More than 7, bitch.
I do believe Adam said, "Is the lanyard worth it?" And I said, "Absolutely." So I'll take a little. Give me a little gold star for that, Adam.
You can't have it.
Damn it!
For Josh, myself from OfferVault.com, Adam, the CEO and founder of Ringba, industry legend Harrison Gevirtz, and Yancy Naughton, the founder of HasTraffic. Let's make that paper. Let's make that dough. This was the Affiliate Marketing Show. We will see you next week.
Marketing Show.